Welcome to the Growth Catalyst Show, where we believe that growth could come in many forms: professional, personal, company, sales, you name it. I'm your host, Dan Mahoney, founder of Transcendent Sales Solutions and a guide to a world of growth possibilities. I've spent my career empowering companies and their people with strategies that accelerate growth. I'm here to bring you stories of these business leaders and their trusted advisors to gain insights into their journeys and learn how they fuel their own growth. Just maybe their journey could become part of your own growth story. Are you ready? Let's grow. Welcome to the next edition of the Growth Catalyst Show. I'm your host, Dan Mahoney, and I'm excited to have my next guest. Laura Madajewski is a principal at HLB Gross Collins PC, an Atlanta-based full-service certified public accounting and consulting firm that has been providing excellence in client services for over 50 years. Laura leads the firm's manufacturing, distribution, and supply chain practice and the employee benefits practice. She also has extensive expertise in serving nonprofit organizations and serves on several boards. Laura, welcome to the Growth Catalyst Show.
Thank you for having me, Dan. It's truly a pleasure.
It's good that we've been talking about doing this. I finally got on your busy schedule, and here we are today.
I know. Hey, listen, Dan, it's you. I'll always make time for you.
I appreciate that. So learning a little bit about Laura as I was doing our research for our talk today. So I'm going to make an assumption that you're an Atlanta native.
I am actually not. I am a New Jersey native.
Oh my God, you hid that so well. I couldn't find that anywhere.
Yeah.
Tell.
It's deep. Yes. Yeah. So, yes, many moons ago, I was born and raised there briefly, then lived down in South Florida in the glorious city of Naples until I came here to Georgia right before the '96 Olympics, and just fell in love with the Atlanta area. Went to college here, KSU grad.
I saw that.
Yeah. Go Owls.
That's all I could find about you was KSU grad. And I was like, okay, this must be somebody that's a Georgia native. So How old were you when you moved here? Well, maybe I shouldn't ask that because people are going to do the math. I'm sorry. So
that's okay. I was close to the 20 mark. So let's see, okay. Right as we're getting into the college era. So
you did your whole high school and all those years up in the Northeast.
Actually did those down in the South,
Florida.
In Florida. Okay. Yeah. So was fairly young when I moved here, but the connections to family and my mother's the one that has the heavy accent. My dad, you could not tell that he was from there. So I probably get a little bit more of that from her and her side of the family. So get me around a few people from up north and I'll really get going.
So a lot of the folks I have on this show, I always look like they started in one kind of career and then they pivoted to something else. I'm assuming that you pretty much knew that you wanted to be in business and accounting from the start.
Yes, very much so. And it's funny. It's not about the numbers per se, because people go, gosh, you must be really killer at math. And I'm like, no, I mean, that's what Excel is for. I'm not over here doing quadratic equations. But it was about the people, as much as we're perceived to be introverts, it's about the people. It's about, individuals. And gosh, there's so many ways that we can get out there and help them. And it's something they actually don't even teach you in college, that's really the bulk of what it is you're out there doing, listening, engaging, identifying, and helping them figure out their path and how their success is defined and what they do along the way. So
through effective communication and listening skills.
That's exactly it.
So I want to go into some of your experiences. Okay. Mm-hmm. So this first one we've got to talk about, which I had no idea. You are a Kansas City barbecue judge.
Yes.
Oh my God. Okay. We could do a whole other show on this, but I need to know more because you are now talking my language here. Okay.
There we go. Yeah, no, I've always been a bit of a foodie. And, I think barbecue can be a very decisive thing. So, I know we said we weren't going to go political here, but I don't know. Some people
we would be more safer to go political than start barbecue in the South. But no, I grew up in the Midwest. So again, that's all I knew was Kansas City barbecue until I moved here. So yeah. So exactly. How do you, so got to tell me how you became a judge for that.
Okay. So I had a friend who has since passed on, and she would get into these interesting things. And one day she reached out to me about 15 plus years ago or so, and said, they're coming through town with this thing where you could go and get training and become a certified judge. What do you think? And I was like, well, I guess I got nothing else going on and I love barbecue. So I did that. And then the rest has kind of been history. COVID was not kind to those of us that were out there doing the judging and things, but things are certainly, of course, back full square. And it's a whole lot of fun. I've been to some interesting places. I'm one of those few people that likes to judge sauces too. There's some very discerning people that won't do that. But it's just opened up a whole other world, and it's been a blast. Really has been.
Still active doing that.
Need to really get back more into the circuit. So it's been a minute that all these amazing opportunities in my professional world and the paying job continue to keep me hopping.
I just love that. I did not know about you. And then I also understand you're an expert in movie buff. So,
Yes, yes.
okay.
Yeah, I hit up the IMDb list. I've probably seen almost every single one of those movies plus some. It's just a passion, and you may often find me quoting movies along the way.
I have heard you and now I know why. So,
Yeah.
all right, you got to give me your couple top 2 or 3 favorites.
All right, let's see. So, the inconceivable one, where from The Princess Bride, where he goes, "I don't think
Mhm.
you understand what that word really means." Double Secret Probation, Animal House. That's a fantastic one
Oh
as
my
well
god.
too. Yes.
That's great. That's great. And what's
Yes.
your top movie? What's your all-time favorite movie?
Oh my goodness gracious.
That's a
So
tough one, I know.
it is tough. It probably leans a little bit more on the comedy side of things. I've always
Mhm.
enjoyed that side of it. So I am a bit of a British comedy lover. So I do love Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Oh, the old ones are awesome. They were so
Yeah,
funny.
they
I
are.
would say my top movies, I would say are I love The Godfather. I just think that whole Godfather trilogy. And another one, which is a movie that I could watch anytime, is I love The Shawshank Redemption. That is one of my
Yes.
favorite movies.
Yeah. Yeah. My kind of more serious one would be Rain Man.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed that
Oh,
movie.
Charlie Babbitt. So awesome. Well, and and again, other thing too is that as we're going to get into your business, is you give back so much on your boards. I was looking. I know you're a board member for Golf for the Kids, and again, I know
Mhm.
so many of you that are involved in that great organization. Good friends with Angie. So talk a little bit about that organization because you guys do great things.
Absolutely. Truly been an honor and privilege. It started off with me assisting our IT director when she had some family matters several years ago. And it's just grown from there. Golf for the Kids puts on an annual golf tournament where all the funds from that tournament go to Choa's Aflac Cancer Center. And the first around $25,000 worth of those funds go to support their canine assistance program. When you see those dogs that are at the hospitals that are helping the families and the children, and it's just, how can it not touch your heart? Every dollar is going towards helping these families and these kids to maybe forget a few minutes about all of the things they're going through. And so it makes it an easier ask for sure out there. And we get to have a lot of fun. And the faces that we've brought to the table over the years, and seeing those that we have helped in some capacity, it just lifts you up. That's what I love doing, and everybody that's involved in the group, Angie and Mark McKenzie, amazing individuals that founded the Golf for the Kids.
And you guys have a tournament coming up, don't you?
We do. It's
And
on
this will
the
post, by the way, our show will be up before that. So
Okay, great. Yeah, it's in October. Get out there, take a look at the Golf for the Kids website. We've got details. Again, just truly phenomenal organization, and really honored to be a small part of it.
So we just talked about all your side hustles, and now we got to get into the real thing is, what you do for a living, right? So,
Yeah.
um, so looking at your background, you started at a big firm. You were there, I think it was Williams, Benter and Libby for 15 years. And it looks like that's kind of where you went through and had a lot of position and you quote unquote got your bones, as they say in the industry, correct?
That is correct. Yeah. And they are a phenomenal firm, and it was a real pleasure and honor to be a part of that group. Again, yeah, I'm an old schooler, yeah, in the sense of that you've got to get in there and you pay your dues, And it builds so much of who you are as a professional, all of those that you're surrounded with and you learn from. And then I found the opportunity to step away from there and move on to my next path, where I'm at now, which is HLB Gross Collins.
Tell me a little bit about your firm and talk about HLB Gross Collins.
Absolutely, absolutely. So you kind of mentioned a few little points at the beginning of our conversation here, but yeah, HLB Gross Collins is a part of a global network of firms, HLB International. We are actually eighth in the globe, and what that means for our firm is that we have a deep connection with our affiliate partners across North America and internationally, constantly engaging, sharing ideas, sharing resources and referrals. So it really helps to elevate us to a whole other level here in what we do. We've got 2 offices here in Atlanta for HLB Gross Collins, but I can reach out at any given point in time and have a conversation, whether it's Australia, the UK, Poland, Africa, you name it. And that type of engagement and the resources it provides really helps to bring that next level of expertise that we have built here to the table for our clients. And we're truly honored. There's one other firm here in the US that actually does put HLB on their name. Many of the others don't. We're gosh darn litigious here in the US.
You
But
ain't
there's
messing
one
around.
in Miami that does that as well too. So, but HLB is helping local businesses. So, and then the I on there is internationally, but we truly take that to heart in how we approach our clients and our engagement and what we bring forward for them.
And being part of the community is how you become an HLB company, really.
Yes, absolutely. There's so many asks in being a part of these organizations, a lot of requirements and things, and they cross check us just like anybody else is regularly. And yeah, so I'm very fortunate to lead our HLB manufacturing group for North America with our partners that all call themselves out as experts in that area. And it's truly been an amazing growth process and opportunity it's just a win-win all around. So I've been really blessed.
I know you're mostly on the audit side, and there's
Yes.
the audit side of practice. And, that's one word that just, I mean, taxes are like, oh, I don't like taxes, but audit scares the hell out of people. That word just itself is like intimidating. Am I wrong? Like, if you're an individual, if you're a business, and if, especially if you don't understand the whole meaning of and the depth of it, it's like, oh my God, I hear the audit. They first think of the IRS and taxes, and everybody starts losing their mind, right?
Absolutely no, and that's immediately what people think is that we're like the IRS there. So we now call it a sexier word, assurance services.
Oh,
So
really? Assurance
yes. Yes.
services.
So it's
Okay, I
our
didn't know
assurance
that.
practice. Exactly. But yes, much of my time is spent in that space, but we take what we call a client service principle approach with our clients. So I am that one-stop person for each of my clients in the segment along with other partners as well too. So no one ever feels like they don't have that one resource that always has their finger on what's going on with them. So we kind of a point of pride for us on that and what helps to we feel differentiate ourselves from the rest of the market. But audit, yeah, audit's a scary word. So we do offer other types of services that aren't just audits. It's probably the highest level because we're digging deep and we're going long and we're really trying to make sure that we uncover as much as we can in our processes and procedures. So the goal is that if you're going to get something as high level as an audit, that's going to hopefully rattle the cages, uncover some of the things that we know that on the surface may look like they're working the way they should, but the goal is to find the opportunities for enhancement. What could be done differently? Where do we find ways to strengthen things? Doesn't mean that you have to go all in and spend a ton of money to make everything perfect, but that audit tells a story, is what we tell people. Yeah, it's happening at some point after the end of a particular, fiscal calendar year, but use the audit for what it is and the resources that come along with it. We analyze and do KPIs and things for our clients. We're taking the standard commoditized item
Mhm.
that many organizations need for various reasons, whether it's a bank or a board of directors or what have you. And we take it to that next level. And really the value prop is all of the pieces that we're looking at what is the story that we're seeing? Where are the opportunities to do things differently, do things better? Because at the end of the day, we're handing you something, but it's up to you. You're the business owner, you're the decision maker. And we're just here to be that independent resource to tell you maybe when things aren't going the way they need to be, bring forward the ideas, the thought leadership, the things that are important, the have tos. And
Hmm.
how do you figure out through that process getting this particular thing here? And yes, all the other ancillary components that we do, the taxes, the other types of stuff. But that's just a part of that process that we feel, take the word audit away and again, just focus on what's going on there, how are things happening, and how we can identify ways for you to be more successful. So we try not to make it so painful.
Hmm.
We get it, but it is still a pain point for a lot of people. So
So when I work with business owners and especially that have inventory or stuff like, oh, you know what, we count our inventory every, 6 months and we reconcile with our books at the end of the year. We're pretty much doing the audit. We're pretty much doing all that. And do you see a lot of that?
oh yeah, yeah, I do. Everything's great. Everything's wonderful. And then we start asking for stuff. And they're like, well, why would you need that? Or what do you do there? So it does. I tell people if you can ease in and you don't have to get an audit, maybe get a review. It's a little bit of a lesser one
Mhm.
service, but what it does is it starts to make you think on all the stuff that you thought was happening there. And again, we're not about trying to come in and blow everything out of the water
Mhm.
because you're not going to like us very much.
Mhm. No,
But
exactly.
where can we find those
Mhm.
opportunities and the things that you're like, well, I thought I was doing that, but I guess I'm really not, or my team's not doing that. So, and then that's where we can add the value in.
Mhm.
We keep the independence, of course. That's important for all of us accountants to do. But how can we bring the resources to the table for you to do the things that you need to do? Because at the end of the day, the business owner's going to look at those numbers and they're making significant decisions off of them. So if you're putting them forward as the person in charge of the finances, you want to feel comfortable that what you're doing makes sense and it's got all the components in place that need to
Mhm.
be. And you thought of the major risk areas, like you said, the inventory. What are the red flags that come up consistently that need attention? So let's figure out how to work together so you better understand them and
Mhm.
understand how you can implement the things that you need to on your end.
Let's take a moment for a quick word from our sponsor. This episode of the Growth Catalyst Show was brought to you by Transcendent Sales Solutions. Whether your company is facing uncertainty, declining sales, or resource limitations, Transcendent Sales has the solution. Their team has decades of experience helping businesses find alignment to meet their growth goals and transforming underperforming sales organizations into revenue-producing market leaders. They take a hands-on, results-oriented approach to solving sales challenges. Visit transcendentsales.com to learn more and subscribe to the bi-weekly Growth Catalyst newsletter for insightful growth strategies. Transcendent Sales Solutions, empowering businesses to reach new heights. And now back to the show. So, what are the biggest challenges you see when you go into like a new client? Like, what are some typical things you see?
Usually we're seeing things that are just being captured whenever they come in the door. There's no formality to the process. Um, so you don't have like a good snap the line if you wanted to look at a particular month and go, here's how I really performed. There's components of team members not filling in the gaps and doing what they need to do behind the scenes there, and so you get a set of financial statements and you think they're right, and then you start looking at it and going, wait a minute, I sold X amount this month and I know I didn't change my prices, so why is my margin so significantly off? Oh well, there's three or four or five things over here that somebody didn't pick up because they didn't realize they were supposed to. So it's there's a lot of clunkiness, I think, and a lot of time and attention spent going through all of these things together, whether it's doing an audit or just consulting or what have you. So it's a lot of peeling the layers away and then kind of saying, okay, here's where the attention needs to be placed. Here's where you need to do to right size to what's required now, or also too, what are people looking at that's most important? Maybe they don't care so much about your prepaid expenses account even though you're super proud of it, but They want to know that the assets that are on the books are actually valuable assets that you still have around. Or maybe if you don't, maybe those should have been cleaned up because you're paying property taxes on those. You got inventory there, but when was the last time you did count your inventory and make sure what you've got on hand is right? And do you know what costs should be capitalized into your inventory? So these different types of things that are in there, being on top of the exposure that you may have with your customers, with your vendors, us looking at it and going, gosh, it looks like you've got like 25% of your business with one customer. Did you intentionally mean that? Or what are your opportunities here for diversification? So it's us coming in with this kind of brand new set of eyes and really kind of trying to find a way for it to take the bites, the smaller bites of it, so it's not all overwhelming where they go, "Oh, Lord, let me just close the doors right now. I don't know what I'm doing." No, it's
Mhm.
not that. It's about how we can find ways for them to better understand it and be a partner alongside of them, so that they feel like they can take the right steps.
So, it is a lot of consulting, it sounds like.
It is a whole lot of consulting. That's really where we spend a good bit of our time. I think any of us as professionals in the world of accounting, it's not just that kind of tangible. Here's a report type of thing, but it's us bringing the expertise, and it's not just us here as what we've formed as our members and our partners and our team members in our firm. Our job is to build relationships, not only with our clients, but relationships in the community, because there's certainly always going to be things that I can't do for you directly. But I know you're going to ask me as your trusted advisor, do you know, these four different types of people because I have needs here. And if I identify something that is a need that is not in my purview, then it should be part of what I do as that value prop to say, by the way, here's a couple of trusted advisors in this space that I know that I think would behoove you to have a conversation with. So it's the tangible stuff, and then it's all the intangible, all the human capital side of it is where we can add a ton of value. And you got to be out there building relationships to make it happen.
Mhm. Absolutely. Um, if you look at if you're a business owner now and you're sitting there thinking, maybe I need to look for some services, what are there some of the realizations they come to
Hmm.
when they say like I need to call a company like HLB Gross Collins
Well,
or a
it's
firm, I should say.
of course, yes. So where we see oftentimes we get a touch point, or I run into someone and I start to have a conversation that where it may have been an introduction from someone else. They feel they have questions, but they aren't getting the answers to those questions that they feel comfortable with. They feel like maybe it's just scratching the surface, or they're just getting the partner that they might be working with is actually scratching their heads. And it's a point where sometimes there's a loyalty factor where I started my business with so and so over here. They've been with me along this whole way, and they just are not certain how to break away from that. And I tell people it's okay that you've outgrown someone at some point, that they're in their space to help people there for those reasons, and we're in our space with the depth and breadth of the expertise and the team members we have to help facilitate from that point in the path all the way. Hopefully we take you all the way down to the next generation coming in, to the day you decide to sell that business, whatever your future plans are, because it's a point where you want to feel like you have answers, you have somebody that's being proactive for you as a partner, as thinking a couple of more steps ahead, and is bringing ideas and resources to the table for you as well too. So if you feel like you're not getting the answers, you feel like you're not certain, you hear all these things from maybe other professionals that you work with or family members or whoever it might be, and you're like, well, nobody said anything about that to me. It's an opportunity for you to at least engage in a conversation. Doesn't mean you have to
Mhm.
make a change, but educate yourself more. Get some answers. Determine maybe it is time that I need to expand my scope and work with, the next level because I want to take my business to the next level.
And that's next level too, because you think about it. There's a lot of good firms out there, but some of them, I think, business owners stay with a firm that might have handled them from the beginning way too long,
Yeah.
and they need to up their game.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's where I always tell people, "Hey, listen, I'm not trying to mess with who you're working with now. I just hope that I can be a resource. And if you give me an opportunity, let me share some thoughts, leadership, some things for you to take away and to chew on.
So, any success stories that you could think of recently that might give everyone an idea of the impact of the work that you're doing in your practice in your practice area?
Wow. Yeah. There's a lot of different ones in different ways, I would say. Probably most recently, I had a chance to facilitate a conversation with an opportunity. And I could tell that they weren't certain that this was a point that they even wanted to be at, but they're like, hey, listen, I'll give you 5 minutes. And I shared just a couple of key points for them that they had not even begun to think of. They didn't think they were in that realm of like, I could take advantage of these types of credits. I could maybe consider shifting over here and doing this. And it was a little bit of a process, no, oftentimes this isn't something that happens overnight. I tell the next generation, I'm like, don't expect you're going to go out there and get somebody and walk out and you're going to come back with 5 new clients. But when we had this conversation, they went back and it was literally a year later that they came back and said, you know what? I remember you told me these things. And I went to the table and I solved some of my problems. I didn't solve these ones because I didn't think they were that important, but now they've become important. And I remembered that you had said that to me. So can we talk? And it just snowballed from there. And it was a beautiful opportunity for me to be able to come back and say, hey, listen, I appreciate it. Something I said to you added value. And I'm here to help in whatever way I can. And now we've had a chance to work together, share the stories, bring some additional enlightenment to the rest of their team members and their investors. And we've opened up doors I think they just hadn't thought of. And it's those types of things, that's what lights my fire. If I can get up in a particular day and I can have a conversation that's going to add some value, whether you're going to be a client or whether you may just continue who you're working with, then I think I've done my job there. And I've not only benefited you, but I've benefited myself too, because I got to hear your story.
Mhm. And I think you've probably learned with business owners, you could give them that great advice, but when they're ready, they're going to be ready and it has to be on their own timetable. It's not always on the timetable we want, but they have to be ready or it's not always the best engagement.
No, no, and that's where you have to learn to listen and read the room, so to speak, and know when it's okay. Listen, I've put out there the things for you to consider, but maybe it's just not time right now. Because as soon as you start taking more of an approach where it's not about them, it's solely about you, then you started to lose your way in that process. And
Mhm.
it can happen easily, but you've got to take the time to engage and listen. And then at the end of the day, if you're going to work with them, make sure that you own every aspect of that relationship as the best you can, because that way you're going to continue to add the value and be open to the opportunities that are going to present themselves on both sides.
Laura, I've really enjoyed our conversation today. I've learned so much. Our next time we go to lunch, you're picking the barbecue place in Atlanta we're going to. So I've already that's on the checklist. But and you're such a community leader and do so much for the community here and the way you give back. The last question I have for you is if somebody wants to learn more about HLB Gross Collins and get a hold of you, what's the best way to contact you?
All right. Well, of course, we have a website, but please check me out on LinkedIn. Reach out to me there, drop me a message. I'd be happy to connect with you and have a conversation. There's many different organizations. If you kind of probably check out our firm name, you're going to see some additional connections there as well too. So certainly, though, our site. There's an inquiry spot underneath my practice area. You can reach out to me there or reach out to me on LinkedIn, and I'd be happy to engage and have a conversation with you.
Laura, I really appreciate you and I appreciate our friendship. And thank you so much for taking some time to come on the Growth Catalyst Show.
Thank you for having me, Dan. It's really been a pleasure. And that barbecue lunch is on me.
I didn't put you on the spot to ask you what you think your best barbecue restaurant in Atlanta is. So I saved you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. We'll have to cover that in our next one. We'll just focus all on barbecue, right?
That's right. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you. Been a pleasure.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Growth Catalyst Show. Remember, you can take these stories of growth and make them part of your own journey. Learn from them, draw inspiration, and let them guide your path of growth. I'm your host, Dan Mahoney, and I look forward to our next journey together. If you've enjoyed the show, please subscribe and leave a review. Until next time, keep growing.